Hello. Welcome back to Flipping Pages, Stirring Sauces. And I would like to say Tawada to those of you who have liked, subscribed, shared, and commented. Silence is power. All praises to the Most High, the Creator, the Ancient of Days, Yahweh, the Giver of Breath, Ahaya, Ahaya. I know that I have not presented these segments in the traditional way that a person would present a topic on relationships. But what I've been doing is using my own life experiences as examples of the different types of relationships that we go through. And if you remember in the reflections segment, I presented my relationship with my grandmother, Granny, my relationship with my father, my relationship with my best friend, and my relationship with my sister, Denise. And then in the segment on relationship of friendship, I presented my relationship with my oldest friend. Actually, my oldest friend is my sister Denise. And this segment is going to deal with a relationship about love, hate, anger, abuse, forgiveness, and lifelong friendships. And I want to say shout out to my sister Denise, and tawada and gratitude for all that you do and all that you are, even in your miserable black and white self. And I want to say shout out to my view. Yes, my view. My view is not aware of it, but 8 months ago, he catapulted this segment of the journey that I'm on. And I want to say tawada and gratitude to my view for catapulting this segment of my journey. And my view is probably going to be asking himself, how did I do that? What did I do? Don't worry. One day we will sit down and talk about it. So anyway, I'm going to get on with this segment about lifelong relationships. Yeah, when I was doing the reflection segment, I questioned myself as to why I felt the need to open myself up in such a public way. But I was being drawn to do that, and so I went with it. I stated in one of the previous segments that I am on a journey, And I now know that in order to move forward on that journey, I had to go back and reflect on my life and my prior relationships. And I had to do that in order to take with me what was good and to leave behind that which was painful and of no benefit. I had to go back and look my enemies in the eyes and release them. I had to go back and look at my relationships with my exes, my relationships with their exes, some of their first wives and their second wives, and my relationships with my exes. Why did some of the friendships survive and some didn't? I think that a lot of the friendships survived because of how we reacted to the situation. A lot of situations that presented themselves, some pleasant, some unpleasant. But I think what we do in the past affects what we do or affects the outcome in the future. And I've got a lot of notes, so this might be a long segment. I might break it up into different segments, and I did make notes. And once again, lighting, the lighting thing. Yeah. So the question was asked, is friendship possible after physical and emotional abuse? Some months after CW broke my heart, I noticed Paul, who I had declared months earlier was going to be my husband. I had never met him in person, but I had seen his picture in a yearbook from my junior high school. I was shocked to see him because I had no idea he went to my school. Given what had happened with CW, I did my best to avoid Paul. One of my friends noticed my peculiar behavior around him and wanted to know why I was hiding from him when he didn't even know that I existed. I had told her that I had a crush on him, and she betrayed me. He knew that I existed, but I didn't think that he would ever get the chance to talk to me because I was always going to hide in the washroom or in a classroom. He knew who I was, and he knew my brothers, and even admired me when I didn't know he was looking. After learning from my friend that I had a crush on him, he made the bold step of introducing himself to me while leaning against my locker. He liked the way I smelled and wanted to examine the contents of my locker. We would talk in school but didn't exchange phone numbers. Throughout the winter, we would have little conversations, and just knowing that we liked each other was enough. He was 2 years older than I, but looked older because he sported a full beard, which was always neat and tidy. He had an afro, and not a hair was out of place. His lips were the color of ripe raspberries. Yeah. And I'm going to read a little bit from, where is that book? I'm going to read a little bit from this book, which was written by me, called The Mistakes Were Mine to Make. And I'm going to put some information in the comment section below so that if anybody wants to purchase this book, they can do so based on the information in the guess it would be the comment section. You know, that section down below. Yeah, that section. So I'm going to read a little bit from this book to give you a sense of what was going on in my life back then and the relationships that existed back then. I had never told Paul about the circumstances that led to me being with Neil. The names have been changed to protect the innocent and the not so innocent. I never cleared up the misunderstanding, and Paul thought that I was a cheat. He had graduated the semester that I quit school, and we lost contact after that. However, through my sister Peaches, Paul had come back into my life. I suspected that they knew each other carnally, but I do not know for certain, and I do not want to know. But what I do know is that they were a little too close for me. I will never be anything but friends with Paul now. I was confused and saddened when Paul told Neil that he only ended up with me because he was late. What did you just say, Paul? I asked. He replied with sincere transparency. I said Neil only ended up with you because I was late. How long have you known this, Paul? And how did you find that out? Do you remember that day when I came to see you in the hospital? I said some nasty things to you. I accused you of cheating on me and accused you of being with both of us at the same time. You told me that it was a misunderstanding that you did not want to get into while in the hospital. Paul explained that he was feeling a bit depressed when he left. He went seeking answers. He went to Angela, and she told him all about that night, when 15 minutes would have made all the difference in the world. The night when his world came crashing down around him. The night when he saw his girl in the arms of another man, holding her, touching her and kissing her lips, and wished that he was in his place. Paul later revealed to me that for months I had ached and wondered what could have happened to make you turn against me and not return my calls. It was only after I confided in my sister about what I witnessed at the party, and she made decisions for me in that she never gave me your messages. I figured that you were happy and didn't have any room for me in your life. So I stopped calling. I concluded long ago that you belong to someone else now, and whatever we shared will always be a sweet sorrow. All I ask of you is for your friendship and your forgiveness. I could not contain the tears. My eyes just welled up and overflowed. I cried because I felt unloved by my parents. I cried because I knew that a part of me would always love Paul and would wonder about what could have been. I cried because I knew deep down I would never be with Neil. We could never be happy together. He had taken too much from me, and I knew that while my faith in the Creator remained strong, I was not ready to be a dedicated born-again Christian. I cried for all of the women that Neil had hurt, and I cried because my innocence was lost, and my ability to love unconditionally was lost. Paul took me into his arms and dried my tears. He was very comforting and suggested that, if you want to stay home and get yourself together, it is all right with me. We don't have to go to the concert. Thank goodness for waterproof mascara, I said. I am going to go freshen up, and we are going to that concert. Neil appeared to be a bit more relaxed as he offered his apologies and told us to have a good time at the concert. He left without saying another word, and I realized that he did not know how to be a man or how to make a woman feel like a woman. I started thinking about my entire relationship with Neil. He had never bought me a birthday present. He had never bought me a birthday card, and he had only taken me to the movies twice. He bought me an evening jacket for Christmas one year and took me to a Peaches and Herb concert at the CNE. That was the extent of it. I thought to myself, what was I doing with him? Looking back, Neil never had a father figure in his life to teach him how to be a man, and how to treat a woman like a lady. I had made certain decisions, but for now, I was keeping them to myself. At the church, Paul introduced me to his mother just before the concert started. I thought to myself, wow, she's a vision of beauty. Her hair hang down past her shoulders, thick, bouncy, naturally auburn. She sported a pearly white Colgate smile. Her lips were raspberry colored, and her body was to die for. Mrs. Temple looked more like Paul's older sister than his mother. Either she was very well seasoned, or she started having her children early in life. It was evident that she had very strong genes. She's fairer in complexion than Paul and looked like a more mature version of Paul's sister. And while Paul did not look like her features were definitely present in him. She was a very soft-spoken, gentle woman. Her hands were soft, and her disposition was comfortable and easygoing. Her perfume was light and easy on the olfactory. I was at the concert, but I was not there. I was busy thinking about the events that took place earlier in the evening. Paul had learned the truth from Angela, but he had not said anything to me about it. He had concluded that I was lost to him forever. Angela had not said anything to me about the conversation with Paul. His sister had interfered in our relationship, and the embers still burned. I kept thinking now, more than ever, it is clear that Paul and I had unfinished issues to sort out, but I still felt committed to Neil. Paul had clearly stated what he wanted from me, and he did not attempt to gain anything more. He had become good friends with my sister Peaches. I wondered if it was his way of staying close to me, or if things between them went beyond friendship. I told myself that I did not want to know. What I do know is there is a light dusting of ashes on the coals that once burned as red-hot embers. While Neil professed his love for me, we were drifting apart. We did not spend any time at all alone together anymore, not even on Sundays. When we went to church, Neil would not get on the bus with me unless there was someone else that we knew getting on the bus as well. Neil did not trust himself to be alone with me because of his insatiable appetite for sex, and as he put it, I want to jump your bones every time that I see you. To Neil, jumping my bones was wrong in the sight of the Creator. I kept thinking how ironic the entire situation had become. Less than 6 months previously, he was cheating on me with Deborah, and justified in what he was doing. And yet, at the same time, he was jealous and possessive. In his own words, he had stated that he loved me, but he had desires for other women. I started thinking about the first time that we made love. It was up against a tree on the northern side of the ravine behind his house. Thinking back to that day made me feel weak in the knees. It made me want to change my mind about the decisions that I had made. I did not know how Neil was going to react to the decision that I had made. He was becoming very possessive, and had started to show up at my place without calling first to say that he was coming. He wouldn't stay any longer than 10 minutes for fear of jumping my bones. I tried to convince myself that Neil is a different person now. He is godly. But I still remember a time shortly after Shauna had pulled her little stunt and I found out about Deborah. I had decided to go out dancing with some of my roommates. I was out all night. I did not get home until the sun was coming up, until the sun was coming up the next morning. Neil had called sometime during the night while I was out. He must have been calling all night because he arrived at my place about 45 minutes after I got home. He did not buzz me from downstairs. He buzzed Persia's apartment instead, and she let him into the building. I had just fallen asleep after showering when I heard someone knocking at the main entrance to our apartment. I was not expecting anyone, so I ignored it. One of my roommates answered it. The next thing I knew is there was a knock at my door. I opened the door to find Neil standing there. He was wearing a red cotton t-shirt and brown cords. His eyes looked past me into the room. I was calling all night and you were not at home. Where were you? I was out. Out where? And with whom? What makes you think I was with anyone? Are you sleeping with someone else? After what you have done to me? How dare you come in here and accuse me of sleeping with someone else? I wanted to hurt him. After all the pain that he had caused me, I wanted to hurt him somewhere deep down. Neil walked past me into the room, sniffing the air as if it was going to reveal some telling details about the night before. Yes, I said. I was having wild, raunchy sex all night with someone else, and it was good. Now I know what it is like. Now I know what I've been missing, because you're lousy in bed compared to him. Who is he? Neil asked. His name is Tony, I lied. Neil was furious. His hand came up and slapped me so hard across the face that my head started to spin. I had seen several of my roommates and friends slapped by their boyfriends before, and I remember Deborah telling me that Neil had slapped her once because he suspected that she was cheating on him. I remember asking her what she had done, and she said that she had just walked away crying. Instantly, I decided that slapping women was becoming a habit for Neil, and I was not going to let him get away with it. When my hand made contact with his face, his glasses went crashing into the wall, and a little trickle of blood was coming from one corner of his mouth. I did not put up with physical abuse from my mother. I did not put up with it from my father, and I am certainly not going to put up with it from you. My reaction astonished Neil. He turned around and walked out of the room and out of my life. My roommates did not know anything about what had taken place between Neil and I the week before. When Neil showed up while I was out, one of my housemates let him into the apartment. When I arrived home, Neil was sitting on a chair in the living room. Not expecting him or realizing that someone was sitting there, I walked right by him and went into my bedroom and locked the door. I assumed that I was home alone because, with the exception of my radio, the apartment was very quiet. I had taken my dress off and changed into a green track pants and a t-shirt when I heard a gentle rap on my door. I thought that it was one of my roommates asking for a favor. I did not inquire as to who was knocking. I just opened the door. Neil was standing there in front of me. How did you get in here? I asked. Sheila let me in. I did not hear the buzzer or the door. You were not here when I arrived. You walked right past me in the living room. How long have you been here? I don't know, maybe an hour. So what brings you here, Neil? My tone was flat and matter of fact. You, he said. I missed you. I wanted to tell you that I'm sorry about what I did, and to tell you that it will never happen again. You're damn right it will never happen again, because I will not give you that opportunity again. And if by some chance it does, and I am still breathing, you will not be. Jennifer, I just want to hold you and be with you. I know that you have your reasons for stepping out on me, and I am prepared to forgive you and move forward. I gotta tell you, it hurts like hell knowing that I did something or didn't do something that made you feel that you had to go to another man to get it. He explained that when he was unfaithful to me, he did not see anything wrong with it. But now that the shoe is on the other foot, he sees things differently. He wanted me to promise him that I will end any other relationship and that it will not happen again. So we will be able to put this behind us and move on. I kept thinking to myself that this is the perfect time to tell him that I did not cheat on him. I only said those things because of his behavior. I moved out of the doorway and walked back into my room. Neil followed me in. He sat in the chair across from my bed. The memory of that night of passion with Rick was foremost in my mind. Confusion soon crept in, and I started to question myself. Did I cheat on him with Rick? In my mind, Neil and I was over, but we had not made it clear to each other. When Neil walked out that day, he had not said that it was over. He just walked out. I had assumed that it was over, and I had thrown myself at Rick. I could feel guilt in every part of my body. I heard Neil saying, "Penny for your thoughts." My thoughts are worth a lot more than that. They are worth at least a dime, I said. We both smiled because those words brought back memories of a time when our relationship was new. It felt like it was a lifetime ago. All kidding aside, Jennifer, where were you just now? I opened my mouth to confess everything to Neil, but what came out instead shocked me. I said to Neil, "Monogamy is not natural. However, commitment is." What does that mean, and where did it come from? I asked myself in my head. I continued what seemed like a lecture. Our society forces us to be monogamous because that is what is socially acceptable. But if you look at nature, monogamy does not really exist. However, there are certain types of birds and other creatures that choose to commit to each other for life. The human animal conforms to society's expectations, but you, Mr. Savard, are the exception to society's expectations. Our relationship has never been just you and I. From the time that we started dating, there has always been 2 or 3 women between us. I wonder how many people I am sleeping with when I lay down with you. Are you willing to be committed to me? You think about that before you come in here and ask me to make promises to you. Jennifer, I know that you have every right to be angry with me, but I didn't come here to upset you or fight with you. I love you, and I only want you. If that is the case, then why are you still sleeping with Deborah? I am not sleeping with her. If you're not sleeping with her, why do you keep going to her house? You heard her. She keeps threatening to kill herself if I leave her. I am slowly weaning her. Let me tell you something, Neil. People who want to kill themselves not tell nobody, them just do it. You mess up her head, and now she a cry out for help. Stop playing with her head. Me know say, you tell her say, you a try to break up with me if you go to her. She's on to your game, and so am I. To me, you're not an asset, you're a liability. You know, I have thought about our relationship, and in all the time that we've been together, you have never given me a birthday card, a Valentine's card, or a Christmas card. Once you bought me a jacket for Christmas, and you didn't even wrap it. Our entire relationship is based on sex. I can get that anywhere and from anyone I choose. So why don't you get out of here and go to her? I have already told her that I am not interested in sharing you, And now I am telling you that I don't want you. He lamented that he wished that he had the money to buy me all of the things that I desired, but he was paying back his student loan and his mother is still helping to support him. He said that he did not have any disposable income and is not sure what he would do without his mother's help. I try to make him understand what I was experiencing. Neil, you just don't get it. Living in this place is only one step away from homelessness. I am not with you for what you can give to me. I have never asked you for anything, and all that I've ever wanted from you is your love and respect. Neither one seems to be forthcoming. Okay, Jennifer. Okay, I'm leaving, but I'm not going to Deborah. I love you and I want only you. Yeah, but you don't love me enough to give up other women and your desires for them. Jennifer, just think about what I've said. With that, Neil left. The following week is when he had gone to church, given himself to the Creator, and then showed up at my place. Some weeks later, I received a call from Deborah accusing me of finally having Neil all to myself. My entire time at the concert was spent looking back and remembering my relationship with Neil and trying to come up with a way to end the relationship. I did not enjoy the concert at all. Paul and his mom had a good time. 3 weeks had gone by since the night of the concert, and I had not called Neil. I stopped going to church, and I had not heard from Neil. I took the time to think about Neil, my life, and our relationship. I loved him, and I missed him, but he had hurt me to the point where a part of me died emotionally. I was no longer angry with him, but I knew that I had to end the relationship for the last time. We were both vulnerable, and he did not have a security blanket to fall back on because Deborah was no longer in the picture. I was not surprised when Neil finally came to see me in October unannounced. He felt that he had to preach to me and quote scriptures from the Bible because I had not been to church in almost 2 months. Please do not preach to me and do not show up here again unannounced. I am no longer angry with you. I forgive you for all of the pain that you've caused me, but the relationship is over. We can be friends as long as you do not preach to me. I would like to be alone with my sorrow and my pain, so please leave. All he said is, I am sorry. Then he left. After Neil left, I went into my room and unplugged my phone. I left it unplugged for 3 weeks and literally sat on my hands for a good part of that time, just so that I would not plug it in and call Neil. I was too numb to cry, so I spent my time sleeping, working, going to school, and sitting on my hands. My brother Walter had transferred to my high school for his 2 final years of high school. Sometimes we had lunch together and played cards and dominoes together with the usual crowd in the cafeteria. I felt like a teenage student again. Ending my relationship with Neil released me from a whole lot of baggage that I was too young to be carrying. Being single and unattached made me feel liberated, even though I could not take part in any of the after-school programs, such as soccer and volleyball. Because of my part-time job, I felt normal. The school year went by quickly, and soon it was spring. It was April 22nd, 1983. My old pals from the soccer team got together and sang me the happy birthday song over the public address system at school. I felt honored to be acknowledged in this way. I did not even think that they knew it was my birthday. I remembered how Neil forgot it was my birthday the year before. Paul, however, had not forgotten. Here I am on my blank birthday, thinking about what could have been if fate and life had not intervened 3 years earlier and I had not met Neil. A feeling of sweet sorrow washed over me, and I realized that everything that had happened in the past 3 years happened for a reason. There were lessons to learn, and those lessons would make me a stronger, better, less inexperienced person. During the morning break between classes, I was at my locker getting out a book when this guy walked up to me and asked, "Are you Bronner's sister?" "Yes, I am. Why do you ask?" "Bronner's told me last year that you are his sister, but I did not believe him." "So you turned 16 today, eh?" "No, I didn't turn 16 today. Why do you think that I'm 16 years old?" "I was talking to your brother about you last year, right after school started, and he told me that you were a little 15-year-old girl and that I should leave you alone. I cannot believe that you're not 16 years old. You need to understand that my brothers are very protective of me, or us, meaning all of my sisters and me. I am Jennifer, by the way. What is your name?" "My name is Martin." "Martin, you look familiar to me. Do you go to this school?" "Yeah, this is my last year. I'm finishing grade 13. "Are you friends with my brother?" "You could say that." "So why haven't I met you before?" "You have, sort of. I've seen you around school, and I saw you last summer in the Eaton Center. You were wearing a black dress, high heels, your braids were loose, and you smiled at me." "That was you? You look so different now." "Yeah, I had big hair back then. I recently got a haircut. I can't believe how different you look." "You look different too. I was so surprised when you said hi to me in the Eaton Center because you have never spoken to me at school. To be perfectly honest, you looked familiar to me when I saw you, but I did not know where I'd seen you before. Until today, I did not know that you go to school here. I have never noticed you here before. I guess that you're not a part of the dominoes or the cards gangs, are you?" "No, I am not. I usually spend my study periods and lunch breaks in the library, but I've noticed you. Are you sure that you're not 16 years old?" "Yes. Don't you believe me? Would you like to see some proof?" I pulled out my identification card and showed it to Martin. This book, the information that is chronicled in here is 95% facts and about 5% fiction. I should have probably published it as faction, which is my word that I've made up for. It's a mixture of facts and fiction. So it is really faction. Anyway, that's all I'm going to read from the book for now. So, back to this. We would talk in school, but didn't exchange phone numbers. Throughout the winter, we would have little conversations and just... I read that already. The year was 1980. June was fast approaching, and the school year was ending. My dad was planning a trip to Jamaica, and Paul was planning to make me his, with my father's permission. He had boldly walked up to me and told me that he needed my phone number because he needed to speak to my father about me. Oh boy. Oh, that's what I wrote here. I was wondering what did I do now? At first I refused because I didn't know what he wanted to talk to my father about. Then he told me, I would like to get his permission to date you. What? You don't like your life. He's never going to agree to that. Just give me the number. I will call your father and talk to him. By this time, our house had sold and we were living in a different location. A call was made to my dad and a meeting was arranged. Oh my goodness. I was a nervous wreck for the 4 days leading up to the meeting, wondering if Paul was going to leave my house alive. My dad thought that Paul was older than his stated age. He didn't like his afro and he didn't like his beard. Paul was from St. Elizabeth in Jamaica and did not do anything to change or hide his accent. He had a slight rude boy walk, but in no way was he a rude boy. He was very straightforward, though, and told my dad that he wasn't getting rid of his afro and he would continue to groom his beard, but he wasn't cutting it off. My father told Paul that he could talk to me on the phone, but he couldn't take me anywhere. Paul told me that with or without my dad's permission, he was going to date me. Every so often, he would call my dad to ask if he could take me to the movies or out to dinner. The answer was always the same. You can talk to her on the phone and nothing else. When we were not in school, Paul would call me around 2 p.m. every day. It pained my father to answer the phone and allow this man to speak to me. On the night before the last day of school and before the meeting with my dad had taken place, Paul had called me and asked me to wear my pink dress that he liked to school. I didn't know why he was making that request, but I obliged him. I was running around at school getting my yearbook signed when he found me and wrote something nice and sweet in my yearbook. He then said, when you are finished getting your book signed, meet me in the parking lot. I met up with him in the parking lot, and he took me on what I thought for many years would be our first and only date. When he parted those raspberry lips and kissed me during the date, I felt like I was in my own Harlequin romance, and I thought that I would live happily ever after. My goodness. My father changed his plans to include me, hoping to get me away from Paul, but it backfired in more ways than one. July 16, 1980, my dad was off to Jamaica without me, and I was off to a party that was cancelled, and the direction of my life would change forever. If you haven't seen the Reflections segment, go back and watch it. This segment will make more sense to you. That was the night I met Neil at a different party, and a series of events and misunderstandings caused my relationship with Paul to come to an abrupt end. My father got his wish in more ways than one. I had not heard from Paul in weeks, and he had not returned my calls. I made a conscious decision to stop calling him. I missed him, but I was determined not to let it get the better of me. I would lay on a 6-inch porch rail, watch the traffic and the people go by, and daydream about Paul. 3 weeks after meeting Neil at the party, I was laying on the porch rail, hugging it the way a lizard hugs a branch. When I heard the phone ringing, I jumped off the rail and ran inside to answer it. It was just before 2 p.m. The call was for me. Someone was asking to speak to me. It was a male voice. My heart started racing. I thought it was Paul. I thought it was Paul. I was so disappointed when the person said, "It's not Paul. It's Neil, the guy from the party." I had to search my brain, and then it clicked. I told him I was hanging up because I didn't know how he got my number. "Your friend gave it to me, and I saw you today sleeping on a rail." I, I took the phone with me onto the porch, looking around to see if he was stalking me. I walked off the porch and could go no further because the extension cord on the phone only went so far. I was perturbed. "What do you want?" "I would like you to come see me." "You must be crazy. I am not allowed to visit men, and you can't call me anymore. I saw you sleeping. I know where you live, and if you don't come see me, I am going to come see you." Whoa. Yeah. At the time, there was only one person I feared more than my father, and that was my big sister. Visions of her chaining me to the wall in the basement went through my head. At the time, she was a good big sister, very protective of us, but she could be cold. She did what she said she was going to do, and my father left her in charge. I could hear myself saying, "Don't come to my house. My sister will kill me and you. I will come to you tomorrow." He gave me directions, and when I got to Warden subway station, he was waiting for me. I didn't recognize him until he smiled and called my name. He was wearing a white t-shirt and blue baggy jeans pants. His muscles were popping. He had an amazing posture. He had a black belt in Taekwondo. He guided me to where the buses were, and we got on the Warden South bus. I was sitting in the window seat looking out the window. He was sitting next to me. I could feel him looking at me, and when I turned my face to look at him, I was looking into two pools of green. He has the most amazing eyes I have ever seen. And I gasped. He asked me if I was okay, and I said, "Yes, your eyes. Are they green? Are they brown?" He said they are hazel, but they're more green than brown. We got off the bus at Centennial College and walked into the park across from the college. We had a race to the swings. He invited me to sit on the swing, and he pushed me on the swings. We laughed and chatted. Then he stopped the swing and kissed me. I just sat there on the swing, frozen. He commented about the fact that my eyes were open while he was kissing me. I was in shock because I wasn't expecting that. He told me that he was going to kiss me again and that I should close my eyes and just enjoy it. When the kiss was over, I opened my eyes. The world was moving in slow motion. He was smiling and blinking in slow motion. The leaves on the trees were moving in slow motion, and I was feeling a lot of new and interesting things. He helped me out of the swing, and we walked past the basketball court where he plays basketball with his friends, down into the ravine and up the hill to the Boys and Girls Club, then back down into the ravine at the other end. We were in the ravine all afternoon, looking at birds and other wildlife, walking, talking, kissing. Everything was still moving in slow motion. I wanted to ask him if he was seeing things in slow motion, But I didn't, because I didn't want him to think I was crazy. When we emerged from the ravine, we were steps away from where he lived. We laid on the grass looking up at the sky, not saying anything to each other. I was just enjoying the silence. Then he said, "Penny for your thoughts." I laughed and said they're worth at least a dime. So that goes back to the reference I made earlier about penny for your thoughts. He liked my laugh, my smile, and my lips. It was 3:30 in the afternoon. He got up, pulled me up, and told me that he was taking me back to Warden Subway because his mom would be home around 5, and he wanted to make sure her dinner was ready when she got home. He was making chicken with something for her. As we were walking to Warden Subway, he slowed down and was a few steps behind me. He tried to grab me from behind and I flipped him. I thought he would be upset that I flipped him, but he wasn't. He was testing me because he suspected that I knew how to defend myself. He wanted to know how I knew how to do what I did. My brothers taught me. He showed me an easier and more effective way to get the same results. We practiced the flip all the way to the subway station. That day, I learned about his family dynamics and the fact that he was 3 years older than me, 1 year older than Paul, and he was in college studying graphic design and was about to get his driver's license. When we arrived at the subway, he kissed me and gave me a piece of paper. He said not to open or unfold it until I got on the train. I was sitting on the train looking out the window between Warden and Victoria Park subway station. He was walking south on Warden. I smiled and unfolded the paper. It had his name on it, his phone number, a happy face, and the word smile. When I arrived at home, my sister was in the kitchen cooking curry chicken with the skin on. Gross, yuck. After a short conversation with her, I floated past her up the stairs and right into my bed fully clothed. That was the first and only time in my life that I've ever done that. I felt a happiness within me that wouldn't go away. But at the same time, I was feeling guilty. Paul and I had not officially ended things, and here I was experiencing all this joy with this man who had caused my world to move in slow motion. And it literally did. For the rest of the summer and into the fall, I hung out with Neil as often as I could, mostly Saturdays after work. I went to his taekwondo tournaments with him and met his friends. He came to my school dances and things were wonderful. I literally ran into Paul one day and was forced to admit that I was seeing Neil. Paul took it like a gentleman with grace and dignity. It tore me apart. We moved again into a bigger house where I was sharing a room with my sister, Peaches. It was February 14, 1981, and I was in the hospital. A certain organ in my body turned on me, I believe due to a mistake on the part of my doctor, but it was never proven. Paul came to see me in the hospital, and that was a big surprise for me because I had avoided him for months. His actions, I had avoided him for months. He did come bearing gifts. He had started calling me again, but I was never at home. I was always at work or out with Neil. His messages were never delivered to me, so I didn't know until months later. His actions said, I still care about you. His lips said, I worry about you. What happened to us? For a moment, I looked into his light brown eyes and wondered if a woman could love two men at the same time. It wasn't the right place or the right time to have the conversation because I was in a semi-private room and the two older women in the room made it obvious that they wanted to know the answers to the question as well. He became aware of the old ladies and changed the subject, leaving it at, we will talk about this when you're out of here. I was grateful to him for deferring the conversation because Neil had been there every day since I was admitted to see me. It was super warm that year for February, and I wanted so badly to get out of the hospital bed and feel the breeze on my face. I wasn't allowed because I had tubes coming and going in and out of all parts of me. I was a mess, and I was laying in bed having easy conversation with Paul. I said it out loud. It wouldn't matter. I said it out loud, and he said, it wouldn't matter to me if you were wearing a burlap sack. You always look beautiful to me. When he left, he kissed my forehead and told me he would see me in school. I was left in a very confusing emotional state. Two men, born in the same month, both quiet and reserved, living 10 minutes away from each other, keeping things just below the surface, both soft-spoken, but if pushed, could explode. Both very jealous, with birthdays within 10 days of my dad's birthday. The difference is I could relate to them. I got along well with them up to that point. I had never had an argument with either one of them. I didn't get along with my dad, and I couldn't relate to him. But up to that point, I had never had an argument with him either. Bombshell. My little sister was pregnant, and I can still hear the words, she's pregnant because of you. That was a heavy burden for me to carry, and I carried it for many years, wondering how it was my fault that my sister had gotten pregnant. We grew up in the same house, but her and I lived very different lives. She was spoiled by my parents. She was an adventurer and an explorer. She wanted to know what was going on in the world, and she was going to find out. If that meant running away from home and going to parties, that is what she was going to do. She was fearless. I followed the rules for the most part and stayed close to home. There were no restrictions placed on me during the day, but at night I had many restrictions. I made sure that all parts of me was home before my father got home at night, even when I used my job as a way to go partying. Most times my sister didn't come home until morning, if she came home. I put that burden down less than 5 years ago when my sister told me that she was raped. April 1981. I had a birthday coming up, and I was determined to have a party. I was told that when I could afford to pay for a party, I could have one. I worked, saved up my money, bought everything for the party that I needed. My beloved granny was here in Canada with us at the time, and she did the cooking. She was a fantastic cook. I had invited 10 people from school, and almost the entire black population from school showed up. It was a great party. My mother, grandmother, and my big sister met Neil, and they really liked him. My sister kept pulling me and Neil apart, stating that we were dancing too close together. It was my birthday, and she kept giving me tasks, wanting me to serve people, and she kept turning the lights on in the basement. My brothers knew about Neil. Some of them had met him, but he wasn't given the same warning that CW was given. They referred to him as the Karachi man. Funny, CW referred to him that way as well. My brothers became irritated with my sister and took the bulbs out except for the ones over and on the DJ's table. She kept going up to people in the dark trying to find me. Neil and I danced the night away, laughing at her. By this point, I knew how to dance. Remember in the reflections video or the reflection segment, I said that my first dance was with CW to Reunited, and I didn't know how to dance. Well, I had learned how to dance. At 2:15 a.m., the party came to an abrupt ending because my father would be home at 2:30 a.m. By 2:30 a.m., there was no evidence that a party had taken place. My best friend, a female at the time, myself, Neil, and my brothers and sisters all did the cleaning up and disposal of the garbage. When my dad got home, he told my mom that there were a lot of children on the streets all over the neighborhood. My mom said, "Aya, them a come from. Arlene had one big party tonight." My dad said, "What you saying?" My mother said, "Even the police show up." Yeah, somebody had complained to the police about the party and how noisy it was. And yeah, the police showed up and told us to turn the bass down in the music, and yeah, that wasn't very nice. My dad called me with the intention of disciplining me. I reminded him that he said I could have a party when I could pay for it myself. He was a man of his word, and so he closed his mouth and did not say anything more on the subject. It was a Wednesday night, and it was my real birthday because I was born on a Wednesday. The next day at school, everyone was talking about my party and the good time they had. A few weeks later, my sister's friend came to me and asked me if Neil was still my boyfriend. I had told her yes. She said that he comes to her neighborhood quite often because his ex-girlfriend lives close to her and she's pregnant for him. Imagine that. I didn't react. She went on to tell me the details about how the girl had fainted at school, was taken to the hospital, and that is how they found out that she was pregnant. I walked away and promised myself that I was not going to become a teenage mother. I was not going to become a mother until I was ready, and I was not going to have a child out of wedlock. That night, when he called me, we exchanged the usual pleasantries, and he told me about his day. And then He told me about his day and then asked about mine. I told him that it was an unusual day, and then I asked him, "Who is Shauna? And is she pregnant with your child?" There was silence on the other end of the phone. I had asked a question to which I expected an answer, and so I waited. After what seems like a long period of time, he answered yes, and she's my ex-girlfriend. He went on to explain that things were over between them. Oh, things are over now because she's pregnant. No, Arlene. He never called me Arlene. He always put an O there. And that is how my name was originally spelled by my parents, with an O, until some government official unilaterally decided to change it from Orleen to Arlene. It is not like that. She seduced me. I couldn't resist her. It only happened that one time. Since you and I have been together, she practically raped me. I didn't believe him. I told him that it was over between us. There was no yelling. There was no screaming. It was just a monotone conversation. I wished him good luck and hung up the phone. We didn't speak for 3 weeks, and then he called begging and pleading for me to take him back. During that time, I had confirmed that their relationship was over, and it had really only happened that once. I am a very resourceful person and knew how to get the answers. That is what I had done in those 3 weeks because I knew that he would be back. I also found out that she knew that he had started a relationship with me, and that is why she had done what she did. Today, though, I am happy that that one time happened, because that is the only child that Neil has ever fathered. I am happy for him that he had a chance to experience fatherhood. Back then, though, the teenage me was very angry. Back to the relationship at hand. I was living inside of my head, wondering if I had made the right decision to accept Neil back into my life. It was with conditions that he would be a part of his child's life and not be a deadbeat dad. I think he would have agreed to anything in order to get me back. I was outside one day during the summer holidays riding my brother's bicycle when I noticed a girl standing in my neighbor's yard and pushing her stomach out. I had not met her before, but I knew exactly who she was. It was later confirmed that it was Shauna, Neil's ex. I was furious when I found out what her motives were for being in my neighborhood. She wanted me to see her in her pregnant state. She wasn't even showing. She didn't get a reaction out of me or a return message. I continued living inside my head for the rest of the summer and into October 1981, when a disagreement with my father ended with him physically putting his hand on me and kicking me out of the house. I didn't leave until my mother hit me over the shoulder with a broomstick. A new acquaintance took me in for a week, and then I got my own place. I had no time for play. School and work took up all of my time. I'm going to end it there for now and pick it up at a later time because over an hour. So yeah, but if you've liked what you've heard so far, then I ask that you like, share, and subscribe. And for now, I wish you Baruch and Shalom. Oh.